Today's guest, a graduate of Holmes High School, was a member of the Houston Astros organization for 31 seasons. Hello and welcome everyone to the Northern Kentucky Sports Hall of Fame show. I'm Charlie Coleman, and as always, joined by the president of the Sports Hall of Fame, Joe Brennan.
Charlie Taylor is a local boy that was inducted into the Northern Kentucky Sports Hall of Fame in January 1998. Charlie, you want to tell us about your early growing up in Northern Kentucky?
Sure, Joe. I grew up in Latonia and had a lot of great memories from that. Spent a lot of time over in what we called the Hollow, which was 30th Street Playground, and numerous afternoons and evenings. Spent a lot of time down there playing baseball and basketball, and with all the kids from the neighborhood. And really was very fortunate to live in that area and to have that facility available to us. Like I say, we spent many hours there, and lots of times we were a little bit late getting home for dinner, and our moms would always give us a little bit of trouble about that. But we had a lot of great times there, and it was a great area to grow up in.
Charlie, a lot of the players of our era, mine and yours and Joe's, were made in those schoolyards playing a game called Strikeout. Mm-hmm. And I guarantee you the young viewers watching this show right now never heard of it. But do you feel that contributed to your growth as a professional?
Well, I would have to say that it did. There was a lot of things that go into that as far as your development is concerned and everything. But the young days, playing in the neighborhood with all the kids and your friends, and like you say, strikeout.
Against those brick walls.
Yeah,
you know?
we used to play over at 9th District School, and they had this huge wall. The backside of the building, of course, it was paved also, blacktopped. And we would throw against that wall, and the old quarter rubber ball.
Yeah,
and
quarter ball. We used
quarter
to
ball,
call it too.
yeah.
Joe, you probably played a little strikeout.
Oh yeah, a lot, yeah. And when you were growing up, you played a lot of knothole baseball. And wasn't your mother one of your coaches?
She was. Started out, I could spend this whole session talking about my mom, but she coached me for 2 years at the C level, C League. And Carl Franklin was one of the players on that team too. I know Carl's been on the show.
Yes.
And he has some fond memories of my mom too. But she was quite a ball player herself. She played underhand fast pitch, softball, and even played on a traveling team back in the late 30s for a team called Liberty Cherries. But lots of times, I mean, going and playing Little League or knothole, it was not unusual for the coaches on the other teams to talk about my mom. They knew she was a good ball player. And so that was kind of a different thing for a kid to hear, that, boy, your mom, she was a hell of a ball player, you know? So it was kind of interesting, but she really loved baseball, and certainly led me to that.
But she couldn't have been more proud in 1969 when you were signed with the Astros.
That was quite a thrill, anticipating that as a possibility, and finally getting the phone call from Cliff Polking, who signed me, drafted in the 24th round, and having an opportunity to go on and play professional baseball was quite a big deal.
Yeah. Let's go back to Holmes. You had quite a beginning as a freshman.
Yeah, I really did. Very fortunate again. The two coaches, John Dowd, it was his first year coaching. And Ron Birch was the assistant. Two great baseball men. And we worked hard. John worked us hard, and he taught us discipline about the game and fundamentals about the game. He was really strict with that. And we had a very fortunate
the cutoff man.
The cutoff man, and being in the right place,
backing
and
up
understanding, the bunt plays and everything that went into the game. And obviously that was beneficial to me also in leading me towards coaching. But in 1963, we were fortunate. We won the state championship, and I was fortunate enough to be on that team as a freshman. I did not participate in it, but John knew we were going to play 3 games in 2 days, and he wanted as many arms on the team as possible. And just having the opportunity to be there and experience that and be part of it was quite a thrill.
You were a captain in your senior year, and is this a trophy?
That was the most valuable player, 1966, my senior year with the baseball team. I had a very, very good year that year. I believe I was 8-0 as a pitcher. I also played second base on the team when I wasn't pitching. And usually Carl was one of the pitchers. Carl and Denny Bowman was another pitcher on the team. So when those two guys, those two lefties were on the mound, I was handling second base for them. But that was a very fond year. Like I say, I had an outstanding year, and that led me to the summer in which I played summer ball for the gentleman that ended up signing me, Cliff Polking.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about Cliff Polking, because he really played a role in other Northern Kentuckians as well, getting professional contracts.
Yeah, Cliff and Charlie Lefton were very good friends, and Charlie was instrumental in helping a lot of Northern Kentucky kids have the opportunity to play for Cliff. We played in what is called the Cincinnati Municipal League back then. And Cliff was the manager, and Charlie helped out. But there was a lot of kids from Fort Thomas. Of course, Charlie's son, Jay, played shortstop for us. And another kid, I believe, Tommy Hicks was a pitcher, and Larry Shing was also a pitcher. And I'm trying to think of Nick Ixburn was also a first baseman on that team. Robbie Shearer played on that team. And we were just fortunate, because of the association Charlie had with Cliff, to have an opportunity to play for him and also play in a good baseball league.
Yeah, and Cliff was associated with the Astros, right?
Cliff basically was a bird dog scout at that time for Houston, and fortunately I had just a great year pitching for him. And I have to give credit to my brother, and I tell him this story all the time, that he was very instrumental in my opportunity to play professional baseball, because that summer of my high school, or my senior year, I'd been a little bit tired of baseball. I'd played sports throughout my 4 years in school, and I was getting a little bit tired of that. And at the time, I had a girlfriend that I thought I was in love with, but I was a long way from that. But my brother, I wasn't going to play that summer, but my brother said, I want you to go over and I want you to throw for this guy. And if he doesn't like you, then if you don't want to play, that's fine. So he took me over, and lo and behold, it was Cliff that I was throwing for. Cliff liked me, and he wanted me to play for him, and I went on to have just a fantastic summer, which ended up getting me a scholarship to Kentucky.
Now, at that point, what was your out pitch? Was it a fastball?
I was more a breaking ball pitcher, Charlie. Yeah, I had a pretty good sinker, and I think
who taught you that?
It just came natural. I was very fortunate that I grabbed the ball when I was young due to my mom's encouragement, and there was very few days that went by in the summer that I didn't have a baseball, a rubber ball, or some ball in my hand throwing it. Broke a few windows of our house, throwing against the steps, knocked out a few screen doors. A lot of stories there too. But that was something that just developed, Charlie, and my best pitch was a slider.
Well, we're going to take a break, and I'm sure Joe's got some things to follow up with and talk about that career collegiately, and then on to the professional ranks. So Northern Kentucky, you want to stay tuned to Charlie Taylor. We'll be right back.
What gets you moving?
Because when you get moving an hour a day,
You fuel your body?
And your mind. Get up and play an hour a day, Doc.
check out how to be a player at letsmove.gov. That's www.letsmove.gov.
And welcome back, Northern Kentucky, as we continue the Hall of Fame show with former professional pitcher for the Houston Astros and coach Charlie Taylor. And Joe, you have some interesting things about his high school career.
Yeah, Charlie, before we get out of your high school career, you also played basketball. You lettered 4 years in baseball, but in basketball, your senior year, you played in the regional finals against NCC, and Dave Cowens and them beat you.
Yes, fond memories of that. Even though we went down to defeat, it was a thrill to play in the regional finals and to play against such a quality team. And they had an outstanding basketball team that year, and Dave Cowens was the center on the club. I don't know how many games they lost that year. It
They didn't
wasn't
lose
many.
any to Northern Kentucky.
I didn't think they
They were
did.
like 30-2 when they went to the state
They
tournament.
got us 3 times. We
Yeah.
played them real well during the season, both at our place and over at their place. I think we lost to them by 11 points and 13 points, but in the regional finals, they beat us badly. I think they beat us by about 33, but they had an outstanding team. Jim Samphis was a guard. Mike Lugan was a guard who was also a good baseball pitcher for
Another pitcher,
for
Mitchell.
Newport Catholic, and Jim Minshaw.
Jim Mitchell signed with the Pirates.
I mean, their front line, Callens was the shortest guy at 6'8" on their front line. He played center.
Yeah.
And they had a guy named Frank Polgears and Tim Burrows and Minshaw. And all 3 of those guys were like 6'7", 6'8". Unbelievable. They just had a real quality team. It was a thrill to play against them.
For our viewers, and a lot of them are our age, and they'll remember this, you played in the Buckeye League.
Yes.
What a great league that was. Just briefly mention the Buckeye League.
Well, the Buckeye League, it was semi-pro league at that time. Good quality baseball. Had some players who had played minor league baseball, and Ron Birch, actually, we played together.
It was probably as good as this Frontier League that Florence
Yes,
is in now.
yes,
or
definitely.
Would you say it was
definitely?
comparable?
I'm trying to think of Frank Baldwin was his name, who played with the Reds.
Dick Ehrlich.
And Dick Ehrlich.
Dick Ehrlich was a good player in that
Yes,
league.
and I mean there was a lot of good ball players in that league, and one of my fondest memories is just playing over at Ross, Kentucky, in Riverview
down on the
Park.
river.
Yeah, it's no longer there. My wife and I actually took a drive there about 2 weeks ago. I was just curious if it was still there. They've got a nice complex over there now, but some great memories of playing in the semi-pro in the Buckeye League. Yes.
Jim O'Toole, who had pitched for
Yes,
the
he did.
Reds, at the end of his career, pitched in the Buckeye.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
And then you went on to the University of Kentucky, and then later went to Eastern Kentucky. And I guess trophies you won at Eastern?
Yes, I was awarded that as the most outstanding pitcher in 1969, my one and only year that I played at Eastern, because I had turned 21 prior to that season, so I was eligible for the draft. And that summer, I was fortunate enough to be drafted, but that's a trophy that I got for most outstanding pitcher at Eastern that year in 1969.
Okay. You got drafted by Houston?
By the Astros in round 24.
And
yes.
you pitched 7 years in the
7
minor
years in
leagues?
the minor leagues. I got as high as AAA baseball. I had 1 year at AAA. That was 1974, and had the opportunity to pitch in not so pitcher-friendly Mile High Stadium, but very, very wonderful year as far as having the opportunity to at least play at that level. And it's a tough place to pitch, but I really enjoyed that year at AAA.
But you were that sinker ball pitcher, so they didn't get that ball up.
Well,
did they?
I didn't get the ball up that much, fortunately, but the other drawback to not only the light air in Denver, we had a pretty fast infield. So, Charlie, if you got the ground balls, you had to have them pretty much
Right
out
at
guys.
somebody.
Yeah.
Turkey Hughes, a long-time legendary coach at Eastern Kentucky University. You played for that legend.
Yes, I did. And Turkey was a great man, a very good baseball man, a solid baseball man, and very easy to play for, easy to get along with, really treated you very nicely. And
Mild-mannered
everything.
guy,
Oh,
wasn't he?
very much
I'd
so.
go watch you play. For a viewer's sake, I was a student at Eastern and would go watch Charlie Taylor. But it seemed like Turkey hardly ever coached. But I'm in the stands. I'm not in the dugout.
No, Turkey, I mean, it would take quite a bit to get him upset.
Yeah.
I mean, you really have to mess up to
I've
get
never seen
Turkey
him challenge an
fire up a little bit.
umpire even.
Not really.
Yeah.
Again, he was very mild-mannered, and for the most part, Jack Llewellyn, who was the assistant coach, he did most of the coaching, but Turkey was a great leader for us.
In your major league career, actually you played before the expansion,
Right.
when you only had 8 teams and 25 players on a team. I want to read this to make sure I get it correct. Your professional career, you had 32 wins, 17 losses, 27 saves, earned run average of 3.13. You started 20 games and completed 11. and 5 of them were shutouts. And still, you couldn't make it to the major leagues.
Well, the game has changed quite a bit, Joe. Today, the younger player has a better opportunity because of expansion is one thing. The monetary situation also is another factor. When players get so high in salary, they get weeded out because you've got these younger players who are coming in so they can trim their salary scale a little bit. But I think it's a better opportunity today simply because there's more teams, so there's more openings. And back when I played, the veteran player was tough to get him out, to unseat him.
This road between Louisville and Cincinnati, now just to use an example with Cingrani, didn't seem like back in your era that we've seen that they would bring a guy up for a start and then a week later he's back and then they bring him back. Henry Rodriguez was up for 2 games with the Reds, for instance. Is that different, or am I just seeing it different?
No, it's different, Charlie. Again,
the roster's like 40 guys.
It was 40 back then, even, but
an active 40.
Exactly.
Now.
Well, they move players a lot more frequently now. It's because the game has changed. They want to give them more opportunities, I think, than back when I played. It was tough to unseat those veteran-type players, and the movement wasn't as much as it is
Dusty
today.
plays everybody. Back it seemed like in your era, you had to really earn your spurs to get in a game, even if it was a doubleheader.
Yeah.
Bench would catch both ends of a doubleheader.
Yeah, again, it's changed quite a bit. But I played when I did, and I enjoyed it, and I had the opportunity, and it's something I'll always treasure. A lot of good memories.
Who were some of the named players that you played with and against?
Well, there was very few on our club. Unfortunately, we didn't have that good of a ball club. J.R. Richard was one of the pitchers. Mike Easler was one of the outfielders who got to the big leagues. Our shortstop got to the big leagues. He's actually coaching first base now for the Yankees, Mick Kelleher. Kelby was an outstanding shortstop. Ray Bussey played third base, got to the big leagues for a short time. Skip Jutzy was our catcher, and Skip got to the big leagues also with St. Louis, mostly, also with Houston. But played against quite a few guys that got there. A few of them I helped get there. And I don't know if we have time, but I'll tell this story. The first game that my parents got to see me pitch was my 6th year in the game in 1974. Denver, we came to Indianapolis, and they finally had an opportunity. They drove up to watch me pitch. And I was a reliever mainly at that time, and I was brought into the game with 2 runners on, and Ray Knight was the hitter. And I had 2 balls and no strikes, and I'll never forgive.
You inherited that?
I inherited a 2-0 strike,
That's
or
unusual.
2-0 ball, 2 balls and no strike count on Ray. And I had no choice but to throw him a good fastball, which I did. I threw him a good sinker down and in. He was expecting it, and he dropped the head on it and took me deep for a 3-run homer. Yeah. First pitch my parents see me throw in minor league baseball, professional baseball.
Yeah. I want to ask you, we only got maybe 30 seconds, but you, Robbie Shear from Newport, Larry Shing Shang from Newport Catholic, you guys were all signed with Houston by Cliff Polkin and played on the same minor league team.
We played together.
What were the chances of 3 Northern Kentucky guys playing minor league?
It's extreme, and it was unique, and we were very fortunate. Again, we played for Cliff. He signed us, and we all ended up playing in the Florida State League together in 1970 in Cocoa.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take another break, and we'll come back, and we need an hour, Charlie, to talk about your great career. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
When life's this hard, graduating can be even harder. But you can help Jose and the students in your community make it through by visiting boostup.org.
And welcome back as we continue with a great baseball show with Charlie Taylor, a Holmes graduate and former Houston Astro. And Joe, I'm going to kick it to you and I know you got some interesting statistics or something there.
Yeah, Charlie, to start this segment, would you please hold out your hand so we can see your ring and explain that?
Well, that was the year that we went to the World Series, 2005, with the Astros. Their only World Series, and first and only to this point. But played against the White Sox, and unfortunately they swept us that year. But really proud of that. That was 25 years of work on my part that went into that, and I proudly display that ring.
Yeah, you said 25 years. Actually, you were 31 years with Houston Astros organization, and you had about 65 to 70 pitchers that came up through you that went to the major leagues. Could you throw a few names out?
Yeah, a few of the names, I guess. I'm gonna go back a ways now because none of these guys are still playing. But Charlie Kerfell was one of the first that I coached. 1983. That he got to the big leagues in 1986, and was instrumental in the ball club making the playoffs that year. Another one was Shane Reynolds, who had a nice career with the Astros. A couple years, he won 20 games. Billy Wagner was also another kid that I coached for 2 years at the AA and the AAA level prior to going to the big leagues. And players, Craig Biggio, his first year of playing was in 1987 with our Asheville club, Class A, in the South Atlantic League. And also Ken Caminetti was another player that was on the club that I coached. So I take a little bit of credit with those guys because I threw them a lot of BP.
I got to ask you, pitch count. That's such a big thing today. You know, get to 100 pitches and are out of the game. Did Charlie Taylor have a pitch count?
No, never did. And I could tell you a quick story. You know, even when I first started coaching in the minor leagues, we did not have to go by a pitch count. And just mentioned Charlie Kerfell. And in that year, in 1983, he was a starting pitcher. He went to the big leagues as a reliever. But Charlie, I'll never forget a game against the Anderson Braves. He pitched a complete game, shutout, 9 innings, threw 143 pitches, 143.
This is a Class A ball.
Class A ball.
Young arm at the time.
Young arm.
Yeah.
One thing about Charlie, he was a big horse, big man. He was probably about 6'3", 6'4", and weighed about 240. But his last pitch of the game, Charlie, was 94 miles an hour.
Yeah, 140 something.
So no pitch count, no.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you this question, fair or not. What Reds pitcher on their staff today would you compare yourself to?
I'd probably have to go with Mike Leake.
That was my answer.
Simply because, I mean, he's got a pretty good sinker, fastball. Doesn't really throw all that hard.
Location, pretty
Location,
good. At least this year he does.
Moves the ball in and out, and keeps it down for the most part. So, and that's what I had to do as a pitcher. I had to keep the ball down and had to hit my spots and had to command my breaking ball also.
Did you follow J.R. Richards in the rotation by any chance?
You know,
when they got the heat, and they came back with a breaking ball.
That'd been a pretty good setup because my velocity wasn't near his. But for the most part, I wasn't ever really one year was like a consistent starter, and unfortunately that year was interrupted with military service, and so I only got to play the first month and a half. And I actually got off to a tremendous start that year, and it got interrupted. But anyway, JR, when I played with him the 2 different years, he was a starter and I was a reliever.
Okay. Do you have a preference? Did you prefer start or relief?
I enjoyed relieving.
Did you?
I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity to close some games. I really enjoyed going in when the game was on the line, try to close it out and finish the game up for us. And overall, I had pretty good success with that.
Those closers today, though, are the guys that are throwing 95 to 100.
Again, the game has changed.
Yeah. One last question, I'll give it to Joe, but the Astros are now an American League team. Mm-hmm. Your thoughts?
I'm not happy with that. I think the Astros should have been a National League club. Since they were brought into the league, they were National League. I know they made that change, and I think that was part of the requisite to sell the club to Jim Crane, and he had to agree with them going to the American League to balance things out. And you know, we'll see how it works out. I really believe Houston's a National League city. Hopefully the people will be able to make the transition and continue to support the club.
DH now. Your opinion, DH?
I don't like it at all. It changes the game too much. I like the fact that I mean, I wasn't a great hitter, but I wanted the opportunity to help myself in certain situations, particularly with the opportunity to bunt and advance a runner. But a pitcher that can, utilize the bat, put the ball in play, make contact, get him some hits, similar to Mike Leake. I think it's a big part of the game, in my opinion. The DH, it takes too much strategy out of the game, Charlie.
Agreed.
It's just,
It's not baseball.
That's American League game.
Yeah.
And we have a couple pictures that we want to talk about. There was one of them was with Roger Clemens. And how does a person like yourself, no insult to you, 31 years in baseball, never make it to the majors, and then you're going out to the mound and talk to Roger Clemens?
Yeah, that was. I mean, it was.
No
it was.
disrespect.
Yeah, no disrespect, but yeah.
That was a
What
real.
can you tell him?
That was a real thrill for me to have the opportunity to just.
Did you get booed, by the way?
No, not really. I mean, I would have if he would have came back with me, for sure. But no, I went out to visit the mound because it was his first game that year in 2006, and he had decided to come back and try and play another year at the major league level. And his first game of competition was in Lexington when I was coaching down there, and it got to be at the top of the fifth inning, and his pitch count had gotten up, and we talked about pitch count, but he was limited at that time because of his first game, and he had been dealing with a little bit of a groin pull, and he had gotten near his pitch count, and Jack Lynn, the manager, said, go out and talk to him, make sure he's okay. And so I had the opportunity to go out there and talk to Roger and just check with him and everything. And the game was on national TV, it was on ESPN, and I got a lot of ribbing from a lot of my fellow staff members saying that was the longest pitching coach visit in the history of the game.
What'd you say to him?
Well, we talked a little bit about one of the hitters, Drennan, who actually hit a home run off of him in the first inning, and he was due up. And I told him, I said, this kid, just keep the fastball away on him, and I think you'll have success. And he actually did strike him out with a fastball away. And he did get through that inning, and I obviously breathed a big sigh of relief.
Best hitter you ever faced? I mean, who was a tough out for Charlie Taylor?
Well, this guy, you'll not know him. He did get to the big leagues, but his name is Bill Stein.
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah,
Bill hit 3 home runs. I gave up 11 my senior year, my year at AAA, when I was pitching in Denver. He hit 3 home runs off of me, 1 off a fastball, 1 off of a knuckleball, and 1 off of a slider. So, but I guess one of the toughest outs, Keith Hernandez was a pretty tough
out for a lot of people.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. But I was, again, very fortunate to have the opportunity to pitch against those guys.
Okay, now, who did you own?
Who
could not hit Charlie Taylor?
I'll go back to a kid that, and most of us had success against this kid, but his name was Billy Goodman. And, he played for the Auburn Twins. And for whatever reason, he had a blind spot that was right down the middle. You throw him a fastball right down the middle, and he'd just swing through it. And I'll never forget that guy. He was number 20. I'll remember that also. But that's one of the guys that was pretty easy for me.
In your minor league career, how many Northern Kentucky people, like Bobby Barton, did you ever play against them or coach against them?
Bob was ahead of me. He graduated in '59. I did see him play, and he actually, I believe, ended his career with Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. But as far as, let's see, it seems like the real Northern Kentucky guy is Randy Marsh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Randy was behind the plate on a couple games.
Was he?
When I was
Two
pitching
Holmes
in the Florida State League.
Yeah.
So. And I always tell Randy this, he didn't give me anything. He made me earn it.
Did he?
Yeah. And so that was kind of interesting. 2 Holmes guys.
That's what I was wondering about Bobby Barton. He was Holmes too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I don't believe there was any others that I can recall at this time, other than Frank Borgia, who went to Eastern Kentucky University, signed the same year I did, and Frank played up in the New York Penn League, and I did face Frank that year also.
Well, Charlie, unfortunately, we've run out of time, and we could talk an hour, maybe 2 hours, especially about baseball. But, Northern Kentucky's awfully proud of Charlie Taylor. And I got to see you play in high school and collegiately, and then you on to your professional career. But, you playing was a thrill for all of us. And you really are representing Northern Kentucky, and we're very proud of you.
I appreciate that, Charlie. I appreciate Joe, and
thanks, Joe.
appreciate what you guys do.
You certainly are a Northern Kentucky Hall of Famer. And that concludes today's show, and thank you, Northern Kentucky, for watching, and we'll see you next time.